So today, Donald Stojack is going to talk to Daniel Peev, and Daniel and I have been working back and forth for a few years now, hasn't it, Daniel? Ben? 3 years, yeah. And can you just say that just with your voice? I want people to hear your voice on there now that I got the recording going. Say something. Say good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Eric, what do you think of that voice? I mean, the first time I talked to Daniel, I says, "This guy's got something." Okay, so you can just hear it in his voice. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that kind of
Ready
cool?
for opera.
Just reading for something, right? Daniel, I've mentored Daniel, and Daniel has mentored me. So we've kind of co-mentored each other, and I hold him very dear as one of my top go-to people when I really get stuck. He has been instrumental in helping me pass some major hurdles where I will tell you, I have struggled and I've gotten really good help from really, really good people. And Daniel was able to find the corner that everybody else couldn't find and help me finally get over some stuff internally in that mindset shift. He's really, really good at what he does. And so today I asked him to kind of come on here, and it's some of these topics. I hope you guys are kind of cluing into kind of what we're doing. It's like what really makes a difference. But our topic today is happiness. Okay, and I want to kind of step back from that. It's like, oh, gee, that's like a no-brainer. Starting the new year, you've got to think about your own happiness, right? And then, when you're talking with people, and we're talking marketing and sales, right? Or if you're working with a client, you've got a client. If they're not happy, or if you're not tying into what is really happiness for them, you're missing it. Does that make sense? But it is probably like getting on the airplane. You got to put your own oxygen mask on first, right? And when you're truly happy, I know that like Tyler and I have been going back and forth with, being consistent with our workout. I know it makes us happier, right? It's like we're probably treating our family a lot better because we are consistent with something, right? And that tends to our happiness, you know. So we're here to play, not to work, right, Daniel?
Yes.
And so if we're going to be creative and if we're going to add value to the world, we've got to learn to do this, to play wisely. How would you unpack it, Daniel? How do we get there?
Well, so the way I see it is that if, let's take a spiritual perspective. So, for example, let's say for atheists, this is not going to work. I don't have time to explain to them how this would make sense to them. But for people that have any type of spiritual connection to something higher than them, or even believe something higher exists, if you think about it, before you came in this world, you you only came for one reason, and that is if life was going to feel good. If
Mm,
it wasn't going to be a drudgery. If that's the only reason to come into a physical world if you are already very happy up there, however you imagine that to be. And the reason to have a new experience is if the new experience is going to be even more interesting than what you're already having as a spirit
mhm.
out of body.
So we're here to grow.
So growth is definitely a part of the equation, but we need
Okay.
to grow in a way that feels good. Otherwise, growth itself is can be very painful
Mm.
unless we're doing it in a happy way, in a playful, joyful way.
And I think that's where
Does
the
this make
brick,
sense?
yeah, and I think that's sometimes where a brick wall will get hit when you're talking with somebody. We're talking with somebody, and we're describing growth to them, right? And we're making an assumption that that growth is leading to the pain, leading away from the pain into the pleasure, where they might see, and I've talked about this before with some, I know with some of you, that sometimes people say, oh my gosh, wow, if I grow my business, I might have to do something that I don't want to do. Right. And so you're like, like logically think, hey, why don't you take action? Because action counterintuitively might lead me to what I don't want, even though it looks good on the P&L sheet.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, the way I see things that are not necessarily pleasant as I actually do see them as pleasant because when you're thinking of your whole life as a package, just like every person is a whole package, and you can't take just the good things out of one person and say, I want to be in a relationship only with those good things in that person and leave the rest. Every person comes as a package. You like FedEx, they come and deliver a package. You either accept the whole package or you decline the whole package. So it's the same thing with not just every relationship, but also with life. And so if you want your life to be growth and feel amazing, in other words, joy, the expansion of joy and the deepening of unconditional love, which feels far more amazing than any kind of joy or bliss, because love is the highest frequency of all. If we want to do that, growth is required. And so this sometimes means Eckhart Tolle mentions that resistance is what makes growth painful. So whatever we resist, we need to find a way to stop resisting. And so life will always give us things to grow our ability to resist less. In other words, things that don't feel good, so that we learn how to arrive at a place of full acceptance and not be run by our mind, the egoic mind, which resists what it dislikes, but are just preferences, and they're not objective reality. And so to arrive at a place of joy while doing things that your mind feels unpleasant, you need to overcome any type of resistances and pushing against or disliking or hating of things. And through that acceptance, we make joy growth very pleasant, and life becomes a journey. The whole package of life becomes a very pleasant journey because you enjoy even the overcoming of resistances, that the things that you push against, you enjoy that part as well, once you understand that that is the process of increasing your joy or releasing resistances, really.
Are there any tools, tactics, phrases, objects that can help us there?
Plenty.
Like I got Janelle going out in her yard now in bare feet in the morning, and grounding, and something that I have got clued into a number of years ago, and it's made a big difference. The things, or I was describing, yesterday, I just, Tom was describing all today, like just this brain fog. And like yesterday, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm coming apart. How do we, and like some of us were trained to recognize that and stop and do something different. But what are some things that are out of the box that we can just say, okay, here it is? It's just breathing, or what is it?
Well, so people are not going to like what I'm about to say because everybody's
That's
too
okay.
attached.
Hey, Daniel, we're here to change it up, and you're working with a lot of people that are actively on the path. So good, they're good students here.
Okay. So I will say it anyway because truth is to be told. The reason for truth is that it needs to be communicated. That's why it exists, right? I mean, it's not there to be hidden and leave people confused. It's there to be told. So I'll say it anyway. The biggest problem that humans have in our world, honestly, is cooked food. And if there's one thing that if we change, it will change everything else across the board, no questions asked, is if we eat far more living, high vibrational foods. By design, we're actually frugivores. We're not omnivores. We can eat omnivore-like foods, but we're actually frugivores. Anyway, not to get into that, but basically fruits and greens. Eat your fruits and veggies. And if you do without, well, because cooking means killing through high heat. We're the only species that destroys 60% of our nutrients before we consume the food. That's insanity.
Yeah, so
Um,
Tyler and I are calming down now. It's like, I mean, but the other thing too that I tapped in with one of my other another person that I really highly value is water, and so many of us we're drinking water that is devoid of life. And I was like, and Ted kind of says, there's a whole website that it's devoted to finding pure spring water, right? And mapping that out. And he's been doing this. I said, you've been doing how long? I've been doing. He said, Don, I've been doing it for a year. He says, I got rid of my water filter, and the family, we truck out once a week to the spring. It takes us an hour to get there, and they come back. And he says, oh my gosh. He says, I didn't think this was going to be a game changer, but it has. So it's subtle little things, isn't it?
yes, well, since everything in the universe is energy and different vibrations of that energy, if we do things that automatically raise our vibration, and this is not necessarily through having to use willpower by forcing yourself into positive thinking, but if you input high vibrational things into your body, such as spring water, such as living organic foods, you will automatically become a much high vibrational being. And high vibration, if you translate low or high vibration into a feeling, into feelings, high vibration energies are joy, bliss, happiness, enthusiasm, inspiration. Low vibration feelings are depression, hopelessness, self-hatred, resentment, fear, etc. So if we increase just based on what we put in our body on our body, if you increase your frequency that way, you don't have to do almost anything else, and everything else will start to autocorrect on its own.
Yeah. And partly it's more the intention as well. I think so many people, they get into autopilot, and then pretty soon they're just going through the drive-through at a fast food place, and because they're just on autopilot. And I mean, how does that really, really work? I think we should almost have devices in our car that prevent us from going through drive-throughs, quite honestly. I mean, it's like really, what is the biggest disease in the first world countries? I think it's drive-throughs. Or now people they have um DoorDash. I mean, like, you can't even get out of your chair now and get the Big Mac delivered to your door. That's really bad. And it is taking time to prepare good food with good sourced ingredients. And it's not just eating it, it is the preparation, it is the energy around growing it, it is the energy around sourcing it correctly, taking the time intentionally, more intention, right? Um, just like going out in your yard with bare feet to ground. Yes, there's power in that. The biggest power is the intention of doing it. Can you
Yeah.
do that in the city? You can. You can do a lot easier in the country, but I mean, does that make sense? And Daniel was spent some time in the San Juan Islands some years ago. So we shared a little bit of geography, but now he lives out in the woods outside of Toronto, is it?
2 hours away from Montreal, Eastern Canada.
Montreal. Yeah, one of those Canadian cities. Yeah, sure. Yeah, betcha. North of Tom there. And Tony too. Tony's in Rochester, New York. So good stuff. So happiness. How do we know we're there?
Well, my compass is, do I feel good?
Hmm.
The quote, everybody knows that quote, but happiness is wanting what you have.
Hmm.
It's not about chasing something different. It's wanting what you have. And this includes wanting the journey. So if you're enjoying the journey, you don't have to have the end goal. It's not, oh yeah, if I get that object, that house, that money, all of a sudden I'll become happy for 2 hours and then I'm back into the the hamster wheel of chasing the next thing because I'm in the habit of not being happy. No, if you're literally enjoying what you're doing so that you want what you have, and having is not an object here, it's the process of doing what you're doing, what you love doing. If you want what you have, if you want what you're doing, you never want to stop doing because you just love it so much. So just that's why I'm big on life purpose, because if you don't know what you're here for, you don't know what will bring you purpose for the rest of your life reliably. But if you but once you become aware of your deepest level purpose, the reason why you were born, what you're here for. And yeah, actually there is such a thing. For so far I've never met a person that didn't have a life purpose, but sometimes it's tricky to get it out.
Yeah.
But once you know what you're here for, you love your everyday because you know that everything, even doing your taxes, I literally enjoy doing my taxes because I know they serve a higher purpose, which is weird. I used to hate doing that. Now I don't. After I figured out what my purpose was, it's just another. Imagine a road that has uneven steps. It's just hiking and it's uneven. And you may not enjoy stepping on uneven rocks, but you're enjoying the whole hike. And that's what life feels like once you know your purpose.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I worked with Dan, about a year ago now, or a year and a half, to help find my real purpose. And I'm going to tell you, it was a game changer because I thought I knew what it was, and I was kind of around. And Daniel could recognize. He says you're kind of around there, but you're not zoned in on it, right? And once we zoned in on it, I'm going to tell you, is a game changer, and I keep it there on the top of my post-it notes, and it's the difference is crazy. It's like one of those little hinges that swings a very, very big door. And Daniel, you've done this with some very high level people, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they pay you a lot to do that, and they're happy because they've been running after stuff. They've been busy, they've been active, and maybe on the outside to the world they look successful, but they're missing something. And once you've helped them found that, would you say that everything changed for them for the better?
Yeah. So this is definitely the highest leverage help I can ever give to a person, because in one session, you're guaranteed to find your purpose. Yeah, we might have to sit there for a while, but I won't get off the phone until we find it. And everything does change because imagine living your whole life driving a car and never knowing where you want to go. And so you're always driving on, oh, well, I like the corner of that road, I'll turn there because sun is shining and it might be a pleasant drive. That's what it's like living life without knowing what you're here for. You just don't know where you're going or why you're going there, and it's like everything is a hit and miss, and you're always missing because you don't know what you want to hit. You don't know that you want to go from here to San Diego. You just that idea never occurred to you, so you're never looking for a map to San Diego, how to get there in the fastest way possible, and you're always driving on whatever road is in front of you.
Yeah.
That's your life. That's everybody's life. That was my life until I realized how to find one's purpose.
I see it in business people all the time because they'll come to me and they say, well, what do you want? I want to make more money, or I want more leads, or I want more conversions with the leads. They'll always say something like that. Well, that's what I want, or I want to grow my company to 15 million, or I want to break the first million or whatever, or I want to make 10,000 a month. I hear all of these things, and that's not it.
Well, I always ask them, why do you want that?
Mm-hmm.
And I keep digging. So why do you want that again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is big stuff. Is this helping you guys out? Is that making sense? It's like it's like, and we're all good at this. So full disclosure, each of us have got magic in doing this. Okay. But it is another layer beyond that. It's like whenever you think you've got it, it's still a little bit further. And it's that I know when I first started studying consultative sales, obviously, I worked with Chet Holmes there for, a number of years and got incredible mentorship. And I've gone through Neil Rackham's spin selling. I've done all that kind of stuff. And so much of that is predicated on finding the problem, and creating the solution, right? And so many times in a process, or we're on a discovery call with a potential client, right? And we find a problem. And we think, and we're drilling down. At the end, they don't sign up for our program. And what did we miss? Got the wrong problem, right? You got the pseudo problem. You've got the surface problem. Or you might even have the problem that's 3 layers deep. But the real problem is 7 layers deep. Does that make sense? It's like, why is it so important to go deep more than anything to find the real problem?
Well, the reason is that source energy flowing through a physical body comes from the deepest level of your being and the deepest level of your body. And unless you're consciously aligned with that flow and you understand why it wanted to be in a physical world, you don't know anything. I mean, you don't know the most important thing. Well, there is a more important thing than that, which is realizing what you truly are. And it's not a who, but that's self-realization. That's the process of enlightenment. I'm not talking about that. But outside of that, the most important thing is to know what you're here for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The deepest level reasoning for why you truly want to do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Questions, anyone? Is this kind of resonating a bit to start the new year? It's like, how do we get there? Or I'm kind of getting there, but I'm kind of stuck maybe one inch shy of that.
So my question, and I actually asked you this, Donald, is how do you find like for me and my vision, I can see things, but how do I dream bigger? How do I to that other side? How do I see that bigger picture? Because that's where I feel like I'm personally stuck. I have my own opinion what you're going to say, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
Donald?
How do you get to where you don't know where it is? Sometimes it's trying something that is off to the side. And so sometimes we're on a path and we think it's the path we're on. And I think sometimes it's forcing it with a new experience, forcing yourself to do something that you've never done before. I bought a horse a little bit over a year ago, right? I'm gonna tell you that I've talked about this, but that was not in my game plan. I didn't see that one coming. But Janelle, that has forced me outside of the box. It's forced me outside of the box to do that and to start associating with a whole different group of people I didn't even know existed. Did that make sense? Sometimes it's finding that world. We get closed in on our worlds. Say we've been in the bowling league for 20 years, right? Like, okay, well, try something else. Take up quilting. Do something different. Find a different group of people. Find a different activity. Go someplace different. Travel down a different road to go someplace. Don't take the shortest path. Take a different path. Get outside of that where you are. Join something new.
So what I'm hearing from this is that, of course, it's the most important thing to find your purpose. And in order to find your purpose, you're asking, why do you want the things you want? And you go down many, many levels, and that you would know by the joy that you find, or that by how you light up when you find either on your path or on a side path or something. Am I getting that correctly?
This is the general process. Yes. Now, I have to use something different that because of my level of awareness through my intuition, I can sense that, and it's not necessarily something that I can put in words. But yes, this would be the general process. If a person is truly committed to finding their own purpose, then they would definitely ask themselves as many times as it takes. It might take years, and that may also keep changing. The answers will keep changing over time, but keep asking exactly what brings you the most joy. What are you here for? Why do you want to do the things that you want to do? Just keep asking these questions until you have a feeling of satisfaction that you have found an answer that is satisfying enough to you for now. And I've actually done a survey on entrepreneurs, and 50% of entrepreneurs apparently are 100% certain that they know their purpose. However, after challenging them on that and actually digging deeper, we discovered that they only think they're certain that they know their purpose, but they didn't know the deepest level of it. But still, even whatever they can get to is still far better than not knowing your purpose. And it is sufficient to have a good life. I mean, that's why they went into business, because they knew what they wanted to do. So whatever answers they found are sufficient for where they're at right now, unless they want to dig deeper.
A big question my wife and I always go back and forth with, and she's really good at asking me, are you still happy with all of the projects that you're doing? Because I got all these crazy projects all over the place, are you still happy? And I have to stop Camilla every time and go, well, actually, there's one project right now I'm not happy with, like, why are you doing it? Right? I have to stop and go, maybe it's time not to do that one. So it is not a one and done type of a thing. It's a continual process of challenging yourself and being down to that core. Is this a lot in alignment? I remember years ago, one of my companies, we hired the expert to come in. This was right before coaching and consultants, and I didn't know what that was. But somebody said, you got to have somebody come help you. And they came and worked with a couple days. I'm glad they did. I look back now. But remember those days that they come in and they'd find your mission statement. So we found our mission statement, right? And then, I would read that afterwards. I go, what the heck is this? I mean, it's like, what? It never made any sense to me. It never lined up with anything. Okay. Now I can go back now 20 plus years later and go, oh, I see where I missed it, right? But in that moment, right? And I put that amount on my credit card to have them come work with us. I had to make it work, but it didn't feel right. It wasn't lining up. And so you're gonna know it when you know it. It's like when you finally get there, you're gonna go, oh, right. It's just like the clouds come and separate, and there it is. But there again, a lot of people go along because they're going through life with a partly cloudy sky, and hey, there's some sunshine coming through. It must be okay. But there's a possibility beyond that is full clarity, that is just crazy when you get there.
So I have a question, Daniel.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So you talk about the entrepreneur experience and the survey that you did, and how it sounded to me like what you said is that they had a thought of their purpose. But you alluded to the fact that there's a deeper purpose. And I'm curious to know, is that coming out of the heart space? And how do you, what's your approach to opening up the heart space for those that want to go deeper, or other spaces beyond that?
Yeah, amazing question. Yes, absolutely. It is based on the heart space, because the heart chakra is the entry point of love in a physical body through a physical organism. And honestly, finding a person's life purpose is actually a spiritual process, and it cannot be done through canned questions. That's why I have to customize it entirely for each person. However, if a person wants to do it by themselves, it took me about over 5 years to find a way to do this for myself, because I didn't have a guide who knew how to do this. But if you want to do this for yourself, you need to really keep digging into what lights you up to the absolute max. And it will be a lengthy process because you need somebody to hold your feet to the fire. If you can do this for yourself, please do this for yourself. It's very important for everybody on earth to know why they're here, because it literally changes you as a person and it makes you a much more good person. Literally, because it connects you to your heart permanently.
I think there's something valuable about that particular expression of what I'm hearing from what you're sharing is that we get caught up in the concept of things versus the isness of love and the purpose that is part of that love. Is that capturing it?
Yes, there are additional elements to that, but absolutely, this is definitely part of the core understanding. So spirituality cannot be encapsulated in words, because spirit is ineffable. I mean, that's what consciousness is. You can't describe it in any way. Nor can we put words to the qualities of consciousness, divine intelligence, which is your essence, everybody's essence. However, once you find a way to tap into that, then you're living your purpose, and it feels in a way that can never be put into words. But definitely saying that it is connecting with your heart space is definitely true as part of the answer. Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to add something to this
Nanda.
topic, because I'm also in the same kind of life purpose coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And coming really from the spiritual experiences. And through this spiritual kind of dimension, there are two aspects of life purpose. One, which we call Bhagavad Dharma, which is a spiritual, which everyone is a part of that, knowingly or unknowingly. You can pursue that spirit. And the other is, which we call Prana Dharma, that's something that you are called in this life to manifest on physical plane. So naturally, I remember I was a scientist, and suddenly I was pulled in completely different space, but not without reason, into the becoming spiritual teacher. Kind of it looks like opposing each other, but actually it's not, because science and spirituality are not completely separate. And even science today is deepening its penetration into the manifest universe, into the consciousness. So our life purpose sometimes comes to you. If you look in the Renaissance time, Beethoven, Mozart, I mean, these guys just got this download from divine, what their purpose, and they didn't talk, it's my purpose. It's just they were called to do that. And these are geniuses. Or in science, Einstein was deeply spiritual, intuitively motivated being. We just have to tap in that what's already existing there and to see what moves us. Sometimes person can be purpose to be great baker, to make cakes. It was their hobby in the beginning. And suddenly that energy moved them into profession that it becomes recognized in that. It can be, you can be a tailor, you can be a carpenter. Any of that can fulfill that, how you can serve others with that passion and love. And then you will go through all obstacles. Doesn't mean you will be happy every moment in your journey, but because of that passion and drive, you will never give up. I mean, that's a piece of my thought.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Eric, you got your hand so politely raised. It's your good teacher background. Raise your
Yeah.
hand.
So Ananda kind of just hit this. Daniel, I'm curious, as we age and mature and hopefully grow, are are we moving closer to it, especially when we find we need to make changes and things, or and maybe the purpose has transformed slightly, or was my purpose, our purpose, something that was set at whatever point in time, and we come to it maybe later, maybe sooner? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. My perspective will differ from the mainstream thought on this topic. So when looking at this spiritually, just observing the spiritual energies of things, we notice that most people are closest to their life purpose when they're a child, or when they are close to dying. In between, they're really lost, usually, in most cases. However, there are people that are very aligned with their life purpose, and they cannot stop doing what they're doing because they feel deeply compelled to do it. Such people, one such person being Elon Musk. And the reason why, and the reason how, and the way you know how you know your purpose is to see how unstoppable you become. Now, the thing that will differ is that I know that spiritual texts will usually say that everybody has a purpose other than the holistic purpose of humanity or of all living beings. So I have 4 levels of life purpose that I haven't completed my writings on this topic, but one of the levels is people having a purpose, all living beings having the same purpose, and that's the 3rd level of purpose. Now, the 2nd level of purpose is where some people say it's predetermined and everybody comes with a specific thing that they want to do. I absolutely disagree with that. I have seen people that never have such a thing. They never say, oh, I was here to bake bread. I was here to build a company. I was here to change the energy sector. That is almost never, not never, but that is rarely the case when people come with such a very clear mental purpose, mentally understood purpose. It's usually just a feeling of I'm living my highest joy and spreading the most love I possibly can. And whatever fruits fall out of that tree, you're living your path of purpose. It's not a thing or a goal, it is the journey. And you know that you're there because of how you feel every day. Anytime you think about, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I'm supposed to be helping people in this way. I'm supposed to be doing this for the planet. I'm supposed to be doing, and it's always, and it feels very good. It's always, there's this energy of goodness behind your intentions and your goals, which does not exist when people have a mental purpose or a mission statement, which is based on general values. Oh, it will be good to say something like that to the public or to our employees. That is not purpose. That's just them doing their best with the values that they know make sense.
This has been very helpful, Daniel. Thank you so much. As I alluded to at the beginning of the call, Daniel's one of my secret weapons. So sometimes people always ask me or trying to figure out, how do you do what you do? Well, how I do what I do is I have people like Daniel that work with me. Okay. And we never pitch on this call. but I'm going to give you access to Daniel, or he has agreed to offer something special. And so my exception to this rule is I don't want to keep this a secret from all of you. If you can use it yourself or you know someone who can use this, I feel confident that Daniel not only can deliver, but he's the right answer. How do we go about connecting with you for help, Daniel?
Facebook or LinkedIn. I would prefer Facebook. Just search for my name, Daniel Peev, and you'll see a photo with a red shirt.
Good start for the new year.
Yeah. Also, if somebody wants to find their life purpose, but truly wants it, I can help you with 100% certainty, or you pay nothing. You only pay at the end if you're fully satisfied. And for people that are listening to Donald Talks with Interesting People, I'm willing to offer 50% discount on the minimal price for the next 1 week. You can have the session later on if you're busy at the moment, but if you say yes for the next 1 week, you can have a 50% off. And again, you pay nothing until you find your purpose, and you only pay at the end of the session if you're satisfied. I don't charge anything up front.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
How do we sign up for that?
Let me know in Facebook, and I will give you the calendar link to book your session.
Got it? Thank you very much, Daniel, for today.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.